I'd like to welcome you all to our Fourth Street Development Housing Authority meeting. Fourth Street Development Housing Authority Board of Commissioner meetings are held on the third Thursday of each month at 5 p.m. All meetings are conducted at the Terry H. main office, 3116 South Street, Forest, Virginia, 23701. Unless otherwise noted, all members of the public are welcome to attend. Commissioners, our first order of business, our annual meeting, call to order. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
All right, Commissioner Jiggets.
Present.
All right, Commissioner Lalonde.
Here.
Commissioner Morgan.
Here.
Commissioner Roberts.
Here.
Commissioner Washington.
Present.
Vice Chair Chapman.
Present.
And Chair Smith. We
Present.
do have a quorum.
All right, Commissioners, it's that time for election of chair and then election of vice chair. And we can go ahead and get started with that. And from the floor, by rules I'd like to nominate myself as chair.
Second.
Motion and proper second.
I nominate Mr. Washington.
Okay.
Second.
All right. So first we're going to do Mr. Smith. Commissioner Jiggets.
No.
Okay. Commissioner Lalonde.
No.
Commissioner Morgan.
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts.
Yes.
Commissioner Washington.
No.
Vice Chair Chapman.
Yes.
And Smith.
I can vote myself
Oh,
yes.
yes. Okay.
To do the rest of it.
All right. Commissioner Washington. Commissioner Jiggets.
Yes.
Commissioner Lalonde.
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan.
No.
Commissioner Roberts.
No.
Commissioner Washington. Oh, sorry. Vice Chair Chapman.
No.
And Chair Smith. Well, Commissioner
No.
Washington, who's your
Yes,
vote?
yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
You're so funny. You're so funny. She's so funny. That's cute.
Okay. And now we have the election of vice chair. I would like to nominate for vice chair Sonia Chapman.
I nominate Reuben Washington.
Got to get a second first.
Oh,
Before we can
excuse
do
me.
the slate.
And I should not choose for people. Second.
Yeah, you can.
I nominate Bruce Lalonde, excuse me.
Anybody? Oh, second.
Did we get a
Yes,
second?
second.
on Bruce?
Second. Yes. I'm slow.
All right.
Yes.
All right. So first, we're gonna do Miss Commissioner Chapman, Commissioner Jiggets,
No.
Commissioner Lalonde, Commissioner Morgan,
No.
Commissioner Roberts.
I'm just silent. Yes.
All right. Commissioner Washington, Commissioner Chapman.
Yes.
All right, and Chair Smith.
Yes.
All right. Now we'll do Commissioner Lalonde, Commissioner Jiggets,
Yes.
Commissioner Lalonde,
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
No.
Commissioner Washington,
Yes.
Vice Chair Chapman,
No.
and Chair Smith.
No.
Yeah, I really lost count. What is
Yeah.
it?
I did too. I was like, oh boy. Okay, let's see. Hold on 1 second.
That might be a tie.
Yeah.
Dave and Bruce. No, I think Bruce. One down.
I thought I did.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I lost my count.
Do it again?
Yes. Can we do it again? I apologize.
No, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 for Bruce.
4 for Bruce, and then
Bruce, did you vote for yourself?
mhm,
Okay.
and then Chapman was 3. So Commissioner Lalonde, Chair Smith.
So what's the vote, what's the final vote? What's the
Final vote is Chair Smith will remain chair. Lalonde is new vice chair.
Come on down, brother.
Switch.
I need to move?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Bring your nameplate with you.
Oh, yeah. Gotta take your chair.
Yeah, I would.
You gotta take, in this case, you gotta take
You
your
wanna
chair.
grab one?
Yeah.
It's over there. You can push that.
Yeah, you can
Oh,
take
yeah,
one.
you can like that kind of chair.
You can grab one of the other.
Yeah, here's one here.
I'm sorry, I just always feel I'm gonna fall out of the chair.
Yeah.
Can't move on. Last time. About 6:30? Are you okay?
Okay. We're gonna adjourn this and go back into the other session. Congratulations to the officers that have been selected. All right,
Congratulations.
that is adjourned. Okay, now we're going into our regular meeting. Start over again, don't
Yep.
we? All right. Forest Redevelopment Housing Authority, I'd like to welcome y'all to the Forest Redevelopment Housing Authority Parish Chase Board of Commissioners meeting held on the third Thursday of each month at 5 p.m. All meetings are conducted at Parish Chase Main Office, 3116 South Street, Portsmouth, Virginia 23707, unless otherwise noted. All members of the public are welcome to attend. Madam Secretary.
All right, Commissioner Chapman,
Present.
Commissioner Jiggets,
Present.
Commissioner Morgan,
Here.
Commissioner Roberts,
Here.
Commissioner Washington,
Present.
Vice Chair Lalonde,
Here.
and Chair Smith.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Awesome. Before you, Commissioners, you have your approval of Commissioners' meeting minutes on August 21st, 2019, meeting minutes.
Readiness.
Okay.
Did we adopt the agenda?
Before we go to unreadiness, do we adopt the agenda or
Yeah,
what? But I
yeah,
definitely
yeah.
have unreadiness about the minutes.
Yeah, we have to adopt the agenda.
I thought we were approving the minutes.
But before we can do that, we gotta adopt the agenda.
Well, I did the agenda.
The agenda is everything.
we've ever adopted it. No, we didn't. No, we never have.
You're supposed to adopt the agenda. That's Robert's rule,
Okay, I'm cool.
in case someone wants to add something, like
Do we
it
need-
happened last time.
Okay, so the agenda is adopted?
So you gotta.
Well, I guess the
Motion.
reality is, we don't really have any stated bylaw, anything in our bylaws as to whether what Robert Rules procedures we're gonna follow. So as
I move that
Commissioner
we adopt the
Morgan
agenda.
has noted, in the past, we haven't gone through that process, but if that's something the board wants to discuss and decide on in terms of whether you want to continue to practice or go to adopting, the agenda, that's, a decision you all should make.
I move that we adopt the agenda. May I have a second, please? That's Robert's rules.
I know, okay, yes.
And then if anyone has any additions they want to make to the agenda, this is where you would do it.
Y'all already motioned in second, right?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Commissioner Chapman,
Yes.
Commissioner Jiggets,
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan,
No.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
all right, Commissioner Washington,
Yes.
Chair Lalonde,
Yes.
and Chair Smith.
No, okay. You guys have it.
My unreadiness.
Commissioners, you have the agenda before you, would they adopt the agenda?
I have some unreadiness about not the agenda, but the
Well, then-
minutes.
Okay. You asked to adopt the agenda, I just asked the question, I put it on the floor.
Well, we voted to adopt it.
Okay,
So now
Minutes.
got it.
you're at the minutes.
You got the floor, Mr. Washington.
Okay, the corrections to the minutes. Please bear with me, made a few notes and have some concerns. According to the Virginia Code, paragraph G, supports and permits said persons, speaking particular of our vice mayor, presence in open or closed meeting with the only stipulation of listing said named persons in the minutes as being present. And I will read that to you. Paragraph G in the Virginia Code. A member of the public body may be permitted to attend a closed meeting held by any committee or subcommittee of that public body or closed meeting of any entity, however designated, created to perform the delegated function of or to advise the public body. We are a public body. Such members shall in all cases be permitted to observe the closed meeting of the committee, subcommittee, or entity. In addition to the requirement of Virginia Code 2-23707, the minutes of the committee or other entity shall include the identity of the member or the parent body. So what's required is, all we need to do is stipulate in the minutes that the vice mayor will be present in our closed meeting, just like we stipulate the vice mayor is present in our open meeting.
So we don't have to deem it necessary
Uh,
based on G.
Based on G,
Right.
it's not deemed necessary. Hey, let me make sure, except as specifically authorized by law, in no event may the public body take action, take actions on matters discussed in closed meeting, except we have to return to open meeting for such notice were given as required by Virginia Code 2-23707. So our action is
Legal.
Is that in the meeting? Are you reading the minutes? No, I'm sorry, the minutes.
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm reading Virginia
From the
Code.
Virginia Code.
But we were
Hold
talking
on,
about the
sorry.
minutes, so.
Minutes.
Yeah, we
You
want to
said
know
something about
the
the
minutes,
minutes,
yeah, we
Yeah,
were talking
well,
about,
well,
are there any
let me-
corrections to the minutes? That's
That's
what we're
what-
discussing.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
We're looking at historical.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing, y'all. In the minutes, let me go to the minutes. So I started with the code, and so in the minutes, we need to make those corrections accordingly, because vice mayor can be present in any and all of our meetings. The board voted against said persons must be corrected, and minutes must reflect the change. Therefore, any commissioner that voted against her presence, the vice mayor, is in violation of the Virginia Code. If they maintain their vote of no, or I don't know about the abstaining vote, they are in violation of the
Section
Virginia.
G.
But the minutes represent what occurred at the meeting. What transpired, this is what's transpired at the meeting, period. If there's any changes to what action the board took, then that should be another matter, but that didn't ascertain the need to change the minutes because you deemed that something was done incorrectly. That would take another action on the body of the minutes, period.
Well, you actually referenced section 8, H, I think, when you should have referenced section G, which would have been favoring what we had wanted to do.
And I can appreciate what we're saying here. The item on the table is this
Just
what
in-
was said
right.
during the meeting?
Exactly.
Whether we
Okay.
agree with it or not now,
Correct.
or
Okay.
a week from now, all that we're looking at is the words that were presented to us by the recording secretary. All
Okay.
right? Is there something incorrect, or
Yes, there is.
there's something incorrect as far as what was done?
Yes, there is. And let me go ahead and get to that. Attorney James, during the last meeting, you referenced FOIA. And I asked you about that. I said, because FOIA is Freedom of Information Act that comes under federal law. Now, when we got to the actual transcription of the minutes, there was no mention that you had referenced FOIA. And that what your quote unquote was, I like to weigh in and express my opinion under FOIA.
I'm sorry, where are you
What
reading?
page?
That's came right from the
The
video.
video.
You didn't include it in the minutes,
But
is
what
what I'm
page
saying.
on the minutes? Was it that
Page
she?
3, and you didn't include it. It's included on the video. You stated it in the meeting, the last meeting, because I really thought you were in error to reference FOIA. And I asked you, I said, you're referencing FOIA for the state code? You said yes. So by the time we get to the transcription that you provided of the minutes, you left out Attorney James' reference to FOIA. So the correction is you have to put that back in, because that's what she said. And I would ask again that when these minutes are provided, please do not take something out, particularly something that is very crucial, because I went back and I looked at the video twice to make sure, and it had been left out. And the other thing you left out for me was my reference to Town Bank and that check, that reimbursement check, where the check number was left off of the check. You mention it, but you don't mention that it was Town Bank. Now, those were my words, Town Bank. So those are my corrections that I want into the minutes, and want to see those corrections reflected subsequently at our next meeting in October.
Well, why I respect what you're saying, I am a FOIA officer, so when you do the minutes, the only requirements that we are to adhere to is to state what was done in the meeting, not what is said.
I understand
I'm not
that.
a transcriber, I'm not a stenographer, so I do not write word for word.
I understand
So
that.
if it was a word left off or something like that, there's nothing incorrect about my minutes, because the minutes are a reflection of what happened, not
Then
what
let
was
me say
said.
this.
So it wouldn't be word for word.
Let me say this. For the correction for these minutes, I want it referenced what Attorney James said about FOIA, because it was an incorrect reference, and that's a legal status. So my move is to adopt the minutes, and I ask that the correction include Attorney James' reference to FOIA, which was an incorrect reference. FOIA being Freedom of Information Act.
I'd like to make a substitute motion that we accept the minutes as is, as stated. Those are not, in my opinion, corrections, they are additions. Does
No.
not change what happened. So therefore, my motion is to accept the minutes as presented.
No second on that. Because this is important, and no one is going to second minutes where something that is critical has been left out of the minutes. Her statement. There's part of Attorney James' statement in here, but not all of it.
And I think perhaps that might be another critical point, because at that point we were looking for
Legal advice.
legal advice from Attorney James, and she was providing us with that corrective information. So I have no objections to adding that information, because it becomes legally binding on us. Well, we're legally bound by that.
Commissioner Roberts?
I second the motion.
Do you think?
Okay, what do we
You put a
second?
motion out there.
Yes, sir.
And she seconded it. Okay.
Unreadiness on the motion.
Go ahead.
Okay. Commissioner Chapman?
Unreadiness on the motion. Unreadiness means we don't take it any further till I say what I have to say again.
Right.
Well, I was
Can that be-
advised by the attorney
Yes.
to move forward.
Yes.
Well,
No, the attorney is not the attorney for the board, she's the attorney for the housing authority. And I'm gonna say again, it's unreadiness on the motion because and this is a substitute motion, would be to adopt the minutes by inserting Attorney James' reference to FOIA when we were discussing Virginia Code. That's what's in the video. That's what was left out. I appreciate what you're saying, but the problem is once you reference Attorney James, because she restated the Virginia Code, that's when you should have said Attorney James restated the Virginia Code that under FOIA, it does not provide. That's what was left off, just that little
Okay, so
piece.
you did put your motion out, right?
Yeah, that's the motion.
Okay,
that
you put your motion out, yes.
I put my motion out
Yes,
first.
did you get a second?
Yes, if I can get a second.
Yes, second.
Do you want me to restate what the
No,
motion
no.
was? Under FOIA. Attorney
Bring it up to
James
vote. Go ahead.
has stated under FOIA.
Oh, which
Yeah, I know he
motion was
was-
first?
yes, yeah, hers was first.
Hers.
Okay.
Yes, it was.
And then he substituted.
Okay. Commissioner Chat,
Yes.
oh,
Undecided, I don't.
Well, let's give you time to think about it. And I can explain again.
Do it again.
Bring it to the floor for a vote.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes.
You can bring her motion to. the
Yeah, that's
floor.
what,
Yes.
that's what he
Yes.
did.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then if it doesn't pass, then you bring Ross.
That's
Correct.
right. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
but we haven't done mine yet.
Go ahead.
Sonia was undecided, so I was gonna explain to Commissioner Chapman.
We got the motion in a
Oh.
second.
Well, she was saying she was undecided.
That's fine. You got your motion, you got your second.
Oh,
You gotta
okay,
let it
I didn't
play
know if you
through.
wanted to give her the unreadiness to hear more
You let it play
explanation.
through.
all right. Okay, Commissioner Chapman,
She had said she was undecided.
all right. Commissioner Jiggets,
Yes.
all right. Commissioner Morgan,
No.
Commissioner Roberts,
No.
Commissioner Washington,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lalonde,
Yes.
and Chair Smith.
No. You can come back and ask someone else you want
You
to
need
ask.
to ask
It's-
the one who wasn't, she wasn't ready
Oh.
yet.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I guess because my question is, I understand what's written down here doesn't contain the word FOIAs, but the minutes are public information, correct? That's
Yes.
public
Yeah, they
information.
all public
Yes.
information.
The video is public information,
Yes,
correct?
ma'am.
Yes, it
So
is.
I don't understand why we have to necessarily particularly name it in the minutes if both pieces of information is being disclosed to the public. I don't really get it, why it has to be in writing. You understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, and let me address it. Once, Ms. Weathers went into the paragraph where she says Attorney James restated that the Virginia Code supports her opinion, it was actually stated Attorney James restated that under FOIA. FOIA. And what's important about that, Sonia, is that that's a misstatement because it's only under Virginia Code. It's not under the Freedom of Information Act. And that becomes a pertinent part of these minutes because we spent a lot of time
We did.
at the last meeting listening to Attorney James quote reference to Virginia Code, but she quoted reference first to FOIA. And so that should be in here because that was not stated anywhere in the minutes, and that's a critical part of what she said to us as our attorney. So the only thing I'm asking is that that part where she said under FOIA as a correction be put in there. That's it.
Okay. Yes.
So
You
it's
voted-
a-
You voted yes? did
Yes.
you?
Yes, that's
Okay.
fine.
It's,
Carried.
So you voted
No.
yes? Okay.
So it's carried.
Before we go forward with
Yes,
this,
sir. Go
because
ahead.
We can't before.
No,
No, we
wait,
can't go.
point of order.
Yeah.
The motion has already
It'd be
carried.
carried.
Look, still say
just,
something. Y'all
just
did.
for
Yeah,
future
but
reference,
Let him talk,
because
let him talk.
we've spent the first 15 minutes of this meeting discussing the minutes of what happened last month. None of the comments, irrespective of whether it's somebody's opinion that these points are important, I'm not trying to debate that fact, does not change anything that occurred. So therefore, we spent 15 minutes talking about something that has no bearing on anything. I just would like to make that clear because if we're gonna spend the first 15 minutes of every meeting debating the minutes, which are not a verbatim issue, then I just would like to know that before because I can come in at 5:20.
Well, then let me say this, and I'm gonna respond. As a commissioner, the meeting starts at 5. And if you think, Commissioner Morgan, that you can take it upon yourself to just decide what you think is important and is not important, then that is a very disappointing thing to hear you say. Because at all times, anything pertaining to a record, which these minutes are a record, is worthy of the discussion.
I can disagree with you if I'd like.
And I'm sure code of
Yes,
conduct,
okay.
I'm sure the code of conduct for Town Bank we feel the same
That
way.
has nothing to do with anything, and let I also
Well-
point out that.
Commissioners, commissioners,
coming up
commissioners,
to a-
commissioners, commissioners. We made the peace, let's keep moving. On to the next item.
But I wanna make sure Alicia
she
is
got it.
clear of that she's
She got
gonna
it.
put that back into the minutes.
She said yes.
She said.
She did,
got
okay,
it.
I don't know,
She did. It's done. We'll check it.
But for the next meeting, we'll
Mm-hmm.
check to make sure it's put back in.
All right, now we got the approval of the minutes done. Old business, Mr. Blaine?
Oh, I apologize. I didn't turn it off. It's off now. Apologies.
No, nothing though.
Okay,
Not nothing on.
all right. Finance, we have anything?
I would like to say, I met with the committee just a little while ago,
Mm-hmm.
and they've submitted our fiscal year end unaudited, Saturday. We have auditors coming in the end of October, new auditors, and we had to make some substantial adjustments, so hopefully they can help us get through to the audited that has to be submitted by March 31st. You know, they'll be able to provide documentation as to what this is.
Okay. Commissioner Morgan?
Ms. Herrera at the training session mentioned that they were bringing in consultants in terms to kind of help move the process along.
Yes.
Have you found that to be beneficial?
Yes.
Anything from the finance committee?
We had a lengthy discussion with Shannon, about the, adjustments she's talking about. They're from prior periods and don't have an impact on income and things like that. It's sort of write-offs of dealing with old receivables. So it'll be an interesting conversation once it's completed, but we did get some detail on what was happening with that. And feel confident in what she's doing.
To tag on to what Commissioner Roberts is saying, I do want to applaud the leadership for recognizing that we needed a change in auditors and we need a different look at the books. I think it's been a good time to do it. I think we're gonna, as we move forward, it's gonna be as our fiduciary responsibility of making sure the records are correct are gonna be about as correct as I think they're ever going to be. There's some challenges that Shannon has in front of her. I want to bring up again, I'm very, very concerned about the COC expenses, all right? And I think I know it's being managed, and I know you gotta manage it, you know, with your thumb on it, but I think we're so, anything that happens very unusual to us, we could be in a very, very tight spot. We do have some reserve from the Effingham sale, but as you all know, you know, in this town, one hurricane wiped out everything you got, all right? And with that in mind, I don't know if you talked to Mr. Blaine about FEMA's, if you want to bring up about the Swanson issue.
I'm doing my report.
Okay. Right, but again, I want to applaud what Shannon's doing with her staff. I'm going to caution again the commissioners. We're getting ready to come up to that time frame where the new auditors are coming aboard, all right? So with new auditors coming aboard, it's going to take even more time with the financial staff. So if you have financial questions to be asked, kind of realize, you know, that it's a different team coming aboard. I think they come aboard next month for their initial interviews. The books have to be closed. They have to be signed. We have to approve them they have to be submitted by the 31st of March. And if you can imagine an organization the size of this is being audited by the first time by a new set of auditors, there's going to be a lot of questions that we've never had to address before. Not that there's an issue, it's just that they need to be educated also on how we do our business.
Okay. Point of privilege. I
Before-
didn't hear anything Shannon said.
Hold on one second.
Couldn't hear.
Commissioner Wash?
I know Lexington Place operational budget is attached to the minutes and they have been approved with the minutes. Is that my understanding?
No, that's something we're gonna talk about.
Oh,
Yeah,
great,
we're gonna
great,
talk about
great.
close, I hope.
Yeah, because I don't know if this is the appropriate time to ask questions about it.
Gotta come to development.
When it comes to development, we'll go through that.
Okay, great.
Okay.
That's what I was hoping.
Okay, point of privilege. Shannon, I didn't hear anything you said, because
I apologize.
You were speaking so
So-
low. Could you please speak again and tell me
Yeah.
exactly what you just said, if you don't mind?
We had to submit our unaudited FDS, it's a financial data schedule to HUD, it's an agency-wide report.
Uh-huh.
And it had to be submitted by the end of August 31st, but you get a 2-week period, and because we had these consultants in, and we had a lot of different changes to make, we were able to get it in within the time frame. So we submitted it Saturday, because it had to be in by 9/15. There were quite a bit of extensive, as Rita said, prior period adjustments. We had some old receivables out there that I was not able to find any kind of documentation on, so it's just kind of like our rule in this type of industry. If you don't know who it is, if you don't know when you're gonna get it, just write it off. If you are able to down the road get it, then you just rebook it. It's pretty standard in this industry. But Cohn Resnick is our new auditors, and I'm really excited about that, but it's probably gonna be a nice process. They'll be in, I think, starting October 28th is when they're tentatively due in.
What is the
Here for
dollar
about a
amount
week.
of the receivables you're writing off?
I'm sorry?
What is the dollar amount of the
I
receivables?
don't have that amount, because they were cleaning up the ledgers and all that, but I can get that for you if you'd like.
Well, will you have it to present to the board at the next meeting
I can.
before we take the vote on the write-offs?
Yep.
Because this is a different set of write-offs you're talking about.
Yes, yes.
And for some
Well, and it's
reason,
already been done, I mean, they've already been submitted to HUD, so it's not like we can change anything at this point.
they've
So
been submitted to HUD for write-off,
Yes, it's as a prior period adjustment.
but you don't know what it is,
Yeah.
the dollar amount. Okay, thank
'Cause
you.
it's not just all receivables, it's just a bunch of prior period adjustments that we're cleaning up some different ledgers and things that we had in our books. But I'll be able to I already talked to Bruce about getting a breakdown.
I want to make sure I understand the question that you're asking.
Yeah.
I'm asking
Because
the
you're
dollar
asking,
amount.
It's not-
dollar amount of what?
Of the write-offs, if she mentioned receivables being written off, and I asked what is the dollar amount?
I just want to make sure that that's receivables you want, because
Yes.
what we were talking with her during our finance meeting was prior period adjustments. That's a different
That was
accounting
my
term.
mistake.
That's a different accounting term from accounts
I
receivable.
understand that.
Okay.
But when she mentioned receivables and adjustments,
Right.
Right.
she
Well,
mentioned
there were a
both.
few of them in there, yes.
Yeah, she mentioned both, and that's what I'm speaking to. And she did not give a dollar amount.
That
For
has
the
already been
receivables.
submitted.
Right, it was submitted Saturday, if I'm hearing you correctly.
Yep.
But you don't recall what the dollar amount is, and that is very important for this board to know, what the receivable write-offs, adjustment write-offs are, because this is actually happening after close of the fiscal year.
I'm not going to disagree with you. I just want to make sure I understand what the question
Right,
is. that
it
you're
was a
asking
question based on what
Of the
Shannon
staff
said.
that's minimal staff of what you're asking them to do.
I'm only
That's all.
asking to know what the dollar amount is that they submitted to HUD,
Of the accounts receivable.
and the adjustments.
Okay.
Because that's what she said, she gave both.
Because I guess I'm asking, there's always adjustments to financial records.
I know,
Always adjustments.
I know.
Right, again, we met for almost 45 minutes today to go over this. I just want just to make sure we're giving you what you want.
I think
So
she
you're just
will.
looking for the dollar amount, or you're looking for, because some of these are not material, how much of a write-off, how much of a number would you be looking for you to be looking at? Because I gotta tell you personally, professionally, I would not tax her to do anything unless it was material. And I would hope that, we would trust the auditor and the advisors that, hey, this is a material number. Because we're talking, what is this organization? $45 million?
I'm
Alright.
asking based on what Shannon responded, and that is the dollar amount of the adjustments and the write-offs of
Okay.
receivables.
Is the,
Please,
is the $45 million not to a C amount of write-offs, or is it less, that's what I'm, because it can be a extraordinary number,
I hope it's not.
based
Well,
on.
let's not make let's
But
not
you
make a
used
comment
to-
about something.
Right,
There was records were submitted to HUD that contained some adjustments. And that's what Shannon brought up. Yeah, I'm just saying, from a financial perspective, there is always write-offs
Yeah.
of financial, always. Always. There is no set of records I've ever looked at that's 100% accurate. And we had the opportunity for someone to look over her shoulder and be able to say, okay, there's some prior period stuff. And we're talking stuff going back to 2003, 2005 that are being written off. So I want to make sure I understand, we're going to go back that far, and that's what you want. And I hope we're not going to be discussing stuff that happened in 2005 at this meeting, because then we'll be here forever.
Well, we might need,
I don't know that until Shannon responds to the questions.
Got it.
Shannon, are you clear? I
Not
thought
an
you were.
amount.
I thought you were.
May I just add though?
And let me say this too, for the minutes, this is critical that we put this in as it's been discussed. The request from Commissioner Jiggers.
And Ms. Sterling has been asked by the Finance Committee to give us by year what the prior period adjustments were for each year. And then we will go from there and decide what do we want, what more information we want, so.
And I just wanna maybe
Go
make
ahead,
this,
Shannon.
with the strict HUD deadlines that I have, I don't have the luxury when I find out these issues to address it with the board. But that's also why we have the auditors to come in and address that, but yes, I will.
Yeah, because we just want to be full disclosure. Full
Commissioner Washington.
disclosure.
Absolutely.
well, I just learned something and, became more aware of something. When you say we don't want to go back to 2003,
2000.
I don't want to go back that far either. However, how far do we go back in terms of our responsibilities for those kinds of,
And how was it missed?
or are we catching up what was left out
I don't like it when you.
for prior years? It's not a issue if I'm aware of what's going on. So if the figure is a huge amount, then we know it goes all the way back to when the dinosaurs landed was on the earth. Then that might make sense that we're getting rid of a lot of excess. That's why this figure is like this. But also in the meantime, for the last 5 years or 10 years or so, I mean, what's reasonable in that? I think that's what you might be asking.
I hope not to give a financial education here. An adjustment is an adjustment. That's what that means, it's an adjustment. It may have been, should have been classified in one account, it was misclassified, and now it's being put in another account. So I want to make sure we understand we've asked Shannon to just let us know by year where those what year those adjustments were made. Maybe something will pop up and said that something happened unusual that year, we can go back and look at it. But again, I want to be careful when we're throwing certain words around here, all right? Because the financial records are accurate for this organization. They are accurate, all right? But there's some adjustments that are being made for a lot of years to make sure that it's in the right code or in the right account or in the right bucket, all right? So we're gonna give Ms. Jiggets, as we've asked by fiscal year, what the adjustments were, and from there we'll look at it and say, okay, what was the thinking at the time? Things happen with the accounting principles that say, hey, this year you're supposed to count it this way, next year you're supposed to account it this way. That creates an adjustment to your accounts. And this advisor has told us, okay, these adjustments need to be made to accurately reflect what the statement says. We've had 20 years of clean audits. We had 25 out of 25 points from HUD in our financial review. So I want to make sure for the minutes, we're not walking out of here saying that we've got something that, because that's our responsibility as the financial.
That's right.
So.
May I respond?
Let me-
No, go ahead.
So here's a technical question. How many years are we legally bound by HUD to do these adjustments? Is there a limit on the number of years or something to that extent? Bruce?
I've always been, if you find it, find it.
You find
correct
it, find it. If it's
Okay.
Correct it.
Yeah,
That's-
all right.
And Bruce, right, when you finally you make that adjustment, and Bruce just said earlier, when you bring in a new, you could be the auditor. I'll use you for example, you could be the auditor. If a new auditor come behind you,
You say I'm gonna
they
be
may
audited.
find something that you have missed, and you have to make those adjustments.
Okay.
Because that's just the nature of the business. It's not that the previous auditors may have did something improper or whatever, just that, as Bruce just said, it may not have been in the right bucket. So now the adjustment being made to try to put it in the proper bucket based on what was required and then submitted to HUD. And so it's not like it's misappropriation of money or anything like that. It's just making the necessary adjustments. That's what's being made.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, and let me say again, Shannon, are you clear with my request? And let me also say, this is a clear example where if there is no comfort level, this is where you exercise and request under FOIA my rights as a citizen. Freedom of Information Act request for this information. So I'll just await at the next board meeting for you to bring back with the dollar amount for the adjustments and the write-offs, and the receivable write-offs, because those were the words that you used. And understanding it is available either as a request from the commissioner or as a FOIA request as a citizen. And that should be verbatim in the minutes recorded.
Okay, thank you. Next item we have is procurement. Nothing? Thank you. All right, housing? Nothing? All right, thank you. Development? Ms. Winston? How you doing? Great.
So before you, you have a resolution 2018-45, I believe.
Yes.
So we've been talking about Lexington Place for a while now.
Oh, yeah.
We received credits from VHCA back in 2018. The demolition was completed in April, end of April, early May 2019. So now we're at the point where we're ready for vertical construction and to close on the financing for Lexington. So before you is resolution 2019-45, but I wanted to go over a few items in that resolution for you first.
Yeah, because I have a point of information on this too.
Okay, so maybe I'll answer that one.
I don't think so, because I see a discrepancy between the resolution and what we were providing for the operating budget.
Okay, okay. So the operating budget, I'll get to the operating budget, but let me just first say, the total development cost is 18, this is all estimates, okay?
Oh,
You don't
okay,
know actually
okay.
until you get in what the actual cost is gonna be. So this is an estimate of the, total development cost is $18,244,441. So you'll see the source of funds that I provided to you. Is we had, as an authority, has to put in $1.9 million in this project. Of that 1.9, $760,000 is coming from capital funds. That was used for the demolition of Lincoln Park.
Could you tell me where you, because I'm not able to.
No, I'm just, it's on your sources. You see sources
See it
of
down under
funds.
the
Yeah,
source
so
of
it's on the
funds.
second page.
So you'll
Okay.
see, right.
Thank you.
1.941905. That is what our contribution is here at the authority. So $760,000 of that is coming from capital funds. The other 1.18 is coming from non-federal funds. Okay? And we have 2 loans from VHDA totaling a little over $6.2 million for a term of 35 years. And then we have city funds coming in an amount of $338,000, and that is city CIP funding. The bulk of the sources of funds are coming from the tax credit equity, and that's about $8.5 million. The reason why I attached the operating budget for you is so you can see our expenses. Also see the revenue that we have coming in that is going to allow us to pay off these debts. So again, these are just estimates of what it's going to cost us to run Lexington Place 1. And then, it's just costly, but it's average of what we do. And then you'll see the revenue that we have coming in to pay that debt.
Can I ask my question now?
Commissioner
I
Jenkins.
I saw a discrepancy between what you indicated in the operating budget and what you're showing in the resolution, and this is for the interest rate. You had indicated 3 on the back of the, resolution page, on the back of the resolution. That was paragraph 2. And you indicated, the loan would be at 3.5%. But did you not in the operating budget indicate 4.5%?
It is 3.5. This budget was kind of a working budget initially, so
Yeah,
the
but-
final interest rate is what's in the,
In the resolution, not
Yes.
this 4.5,
no,
this
3.5,
reference,
right.
the 3, okay.
3.5.
Good
That I
catch.
picked up, which,
Good catch.
okay,
Good catch.
and I
But the dollar
understand,
amount is the same.
yeah, well, the 3.5% versus 4.5% in its operating budget. And the other thing that, and I understand you say these are just ballpark numbers, but I really thought some of those were kind of lowball, and that's for the manager, that 15,000 for
That was my question.
the manager position. And when you inserted the amount for salaries, not knowing the number of employees that you were talking about, I know that we're talking about phase 1, which is 72 units.
Right.
But
So-
it just seems like this is gonna be impacted more negatively once you put in the accurate numbers.
So the actual numbers that we put in, remember, this was kind of phase 1
Yes,
of
I
phase
understand
2.
that. Mhm.
So we took the actual salaries of the staff that we had attended on going to those properties. So at 72 units, it's really like a part-time person. And then you have office salaries as well, and office supplies and some other things. So the bottom line of the budget is gonna remain the same. You can move items, line items, all,
That's
you
what-
know.
No, I
If we
understand
find
that.
out that we don't need, as much in advertising, or we don't need as much.
That's
in
what I was gonna
exterminating, or we
raise.
don't need
Right.
as much in,
Yeah, point of
you know,
privilege, you didn't even
repairs,
have
we can
anything for
move-
advertising.
And we move them all the time, because we get unexpected, repairs that are needed.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
we don't know about,
But you didn't even insert anything for advertising.
But you got
That
it
was-
covered.
Well, I was just using it as one of the line
Right.
items,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's
So it's a moving
uncomfortable
But we're gonna
because,
cover our salaries of our staff.
well, I'm just gonna say, because I've worked on budgets before,
Uh-huh.
when I served as a commissioner on another authority, and you want it as accurate as possible.
Closely.
And just picking up those two discrepancies obviously was a concern for me, because now we're talking about the resolution. And,
Well, I put that in just so you can see the expenses. I'm not asking you to adopt the budget.
no, I
for
understand that.
So I work closely with the CFO on these numbers, determine what it costs to operate similar type properties that are newer. It's not the same to operate a property that was built in 2019 that one is built in 1970.
Oh,
So we
you're
have
right.
different, expenses.
Yeah.
So I work with her, we've had extensive meetings and conversations regarding this, so I'm confident in our numbers.
Yeah, well, and I understand what you're saying, but it's really a red flag when you don't have an amount in there for advertising. And this is a new property, and to me, advertising is a critical line item on this,
Well,
so.
we advertise usually electronically on Facebook or on our website, I'm sorry, not Facebook, on our website, we place it in the paper, as well.
Newspaper?
Newspaper as well.
That costs
So,
money.
so those type of things that, a lot of these things are done electronically, so we don't have a large expense, and we basing this based on our previous, developments for advertising.
But
So
we have to
it's
take
very
in
minimal.
consideration
So, if
those,
you're talking $100, that's not material enough to, because again, these numbers, you can move them all day long, and-
but everyone doesn't do social media. All of your potential
We advertise in the
residents won't be doing it, so that's why I'm saying, there definitely should be an amount inserted in there for advertising expense. So with that, those are my questions.
Just trying to give you more money.
Well, the budget is, it is what it
What it
is.
is, it's
I
gonna
can
have to
move
move
things
some
around in
from-
between, I
Yeah,
can't
you
make
gotta
the number
move, this is
greater.
a moving budget.
So,
Any other thing in the commission?
Yeah, that was, in a nutshell, you answered my questions, because I had a couple of concerns too, but because this is a moving budget.
It is.
Yeah, I can appreciate it, so, yeah.
Commissioner Lawman?
Yeah, you talked about $1.9 million is gonna come from the agency.
Yes.
$700,000 was coming from the capital.
760 coming from capital funds,
Where's the rest of it coming from?
coming from our non-federal funds, coming from the Effingham sale,
Okay.
right?
How much,
Am I right, Shannon? Okay.
and how much do we have in that? 2 million.
But a million of it is coming in.
We will get $1 million from the federal home loan
So
bank.
we're only the.
That's what I wanted to hear.
That's right, yeah.
So we got a $500,000 from Federal Home Loan Bank, and hopefully within the next couple of weeks, we'll have the other $500,000. So we'll be able to replenish that. And-
Just for timing purposes, we may have to move
Yeah,
stuff around.
It's moving.
Now that we've been removed off of the bad list and
Thank
and
you,
for the
thank
AHP grant, are we looking for an AHP grant for this project as well, or can
No,
we?
we don't come off the bad list. They allowed us to go ahead and, reimburse us for these funds, but we stay on to the end of this year. So we won't be able to apply until next year.
Next year.
So that would be
Phase two.
for phase two?
yes.
Phase two.
Yes.
We can't go retroactively,
No.
even if we're still under
I tried.
construction?
So with that money coming in from the home loan, that makes the net then about $175,000. So,
That's slim.
so it's $175,000
That's
that
slim.
we're looking to cover.
Correct.
Okay.
Slim.
Plus the second.
Correct.
Commissioner Moore?
And the good news, and I've mentioned this to Ms. Winston, I think when you look at what happened with Dale and you look at where these projections are, I was very much encouraged because number one, with our debt service, we're in a 153 coverage, which is pretty strong. But actually, it looks like that we should be able to repay part of that loan,
Absolutely.
which is
Good.
appears to be highly unusual based on the
That's true.
previous, things that happened. So I was quite encouraged by this.
All right, then, thank you, Ms. Winston. Yes, we do. I know you're about to do it now. Commissioners, before you have resolution 2019-45, resolution authorizing Fourth Street Development Housing Authority to execute closing document and undertake obligations for the development of Lexington Place 1, Phase 1.
I make a motion to accept the resolution 2019-45.
Second.
Madam Secretary?
All right.
Unreadiness on the motion. And I really didn't know where else I could ask this question. If we adopt the resolution, do we still have the option to change the name from Lexington Place?
I believe that's already set.
Say that again?
That's already set. Like, when developers come to do this stuff, them names are,
So it's already set. And the reason I ask, because there is a Lexington Apartments in Norfolk, right at the corner of Tidewater and, I think, Virginia Beach Boulevard. And so I was just wondering if it had to be Lexington because there's a
Princess Anne Road.
street of Lexington. Or if it was, even if we adopt this and we decide we want to change the name of it from Lexington, is that an option?
Well, once all the paperwork has submitted to HUD, now if you talk about
Uh-huh.
going back changing names, you're gonna have to.
Just the
file.
name, one
It
name.
will be costly because all of our legal
Right.
documents are in.
Are saying
Lexington.
Lexington,
Yes.
okay.
So-
Thank you for that.
I'm sorry, before we proceed with the vote, I need to remove my second. I'm going to abstain from the actual vote, so I can't make the second.
Second.
all right?
Moving forward.
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Chapman?
Yes.
All right. Commissioner Jiggets?
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan? Oh, abstain.
Abstain.
All right. Commissioner Roberts?
Yes.
Commissioner Washington?
Yes.
Vice Chair Lalonde?
Yes.
And Chair Smith?
Yes. Next item on the agenda, human resources, we don't have anything. Report, August significant activities, Mr. Blaine.
Commissioners, in your package was the August significant activity report. Any questions on the information you received in that report?
wanted to ask about the reinstated, the two applications that were closed in error. What was that due to? I'm on page 1.
I will have to,
Number 3. Okay,
I'm not sure.
okay.
But what does that mean? Could you tell us?
It was just open air.
Yeah.
So that
She said she gonna
reinstated
look
the
at it.
application.
She said she'll have to look into it.
Okay.
We can get that for you and get it to you, yeah, that information. Okay.
Yes, sir. Commissioner.
I was very pleased to see the activity in the development area that, you know, that so much progress is being made on those properties that we had, you know, approved months and months ago.
Mhm.
Pyramid stuff, the Seaboard Commons, some activity on that front, and also the other repairs and things that were beginning to happen.
Awesome, we all moving in the right direction.
And like, I'm seeing residents failing housekeeping inspections, are shown how to do that. Are these, I know we have some disabled people and stuff like that. People who fail housekeeping inspections, do they get a re-education or do,
Yes.
how do we handle, you know? And how many times can you fail, you know?
Normally 2 times if they fail, then we move to terminate the lease. We send them a housekeeping class. When new move-ins come in, they have to go to a new move-in housekeeping class. And as the managers do inspections, if they see a need for them to go to housekeeping class, we send them again. We re-inspect, and if they have to go again, we will. The 3rd try, we will actually terminate their lease.
So what happens, not in particular to this case, so what would cause someone to fail housekeeping?
Poor housekeeping, dirty bugs, poor housekeeping, unkept.
God.
And we look at it as not what I would say is unkept, but dishes in the sink, laundry. I've gone in units where pots been on the stove that I know has been probably sitting there for like a week. You have dried up food, laundry all over the place. The bathroom is unkept, so that's poor housekeeping.
And which means
A smell.
you're small, then you got, you create roaches,
I was
not
gonna
only
say,
for the
it has
residents.
an infestation of roaches.
That's what I was thinking about. Interesting. Okay, I'll be satisfied with that. I'll talk to you, Ms. Blunt.
Any other questions on this? If not, I want to thank you for reading through it, and that's it.
Mr. Bland.
Few items. Your November board meeting is the 21st of November, and that's the same time normally that would be the governor's conference, which is going to be held over in Hampton at the convention center. So I wanted to know, since some of the commissioners will be requesting to go to the governor's conference during that particular time, if we could change the date of our November board meeting to maybe the Tuesday before the Thursday, which would be the 19th. That would be open to everybody, so we could still have the board meeting, but we just have it 2 days. We have it on Tuesday of that week instead of Thursday, because that Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday is when the governor's conference is over. Is going to be over in Hampton at the convention center.
Tuesday, right?
Yeah, the 19th, if that can fit everybody's schedule. Or the week before, which could be the 14th of November.
That might be better.
When is Thanksgiving? Do we know?
It's on the
Second.
28th.
The 28th, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, not just you gotta give me an answer ready this moment, but look at the 14th of November or the 19th as a date in place of the 21st because of the, because I know 2 commissioners have already requested for the governor's
Can
conference.
she send us
Yes,
a date
Yeah.
change?
Yeah, we can send you
request?
something. Yeah, we
Yeah,
can
like
send
we
you
did
Send us
the last
information
thing.
on the governor's conference also.
Yes.
Yeah,
Because I don't recall us receiving
Okay.
that.
yeah. Far back.
I know it was something in the paper recently in reference to some land that the housing authority reference to a new health center over on High Street.
Across from Westbury.
Westbury, but the housing authority, that land was deeded back to the city in February of 2017, so we don't have anything to do with that.
Well,
We'll
also
just
direct.
leave it at that.
We don't, the land is not titled
To the
to
housing authority.
PRHA.
No, but at one point it was, and then it went to EDA.
Can we send the people a letter informing them that the land does not, it belongs to the city, so
Well,
that
they-
they
Well,
don't?
no,
They
they
already
were
know
just,
it.
yeah,
They already
yeah.
know it. They know they belong to the city.
How do they know it if they're
Because
asking us
it's in the paper, it was in the paper.
that it belongs to the city?
But I think they were taking it from the original source of title.
Title.
It started with the housing authority, then it was transferred, one of those I think 65 properties maybe, or before that, it ended up with EDA, I do know
It was
that.
way before that.
Yeah, it wasn't that, but I mean, it did end up with EDA.
But we have informed them that we,
Who is them?
the Westbury, community is in an uproar about this health facility that's gonna be built on the corner of Effingham and County Street, and they don't want that health facility built there, and they're stating that we own the land. And my question is, basically, at one point, we did own the land, which supports your point, but we don't
Anymore.
anymore, so that they can stop coming at us for questions that they should be directing to City Hall. And I'm simply stating, we send them something official saying the city owns the land and we don't. And that way, we can close it with that fact. I'm just opposed to having people continuing to bug us about something that's not
That
relevant.
doesn't come under our
And we have to
jurisdiction.
have a conversation about it.
If, Ms. Winston, if my history serves me correct, that land was purchased by CDBG funds, right?
Yes, that was
So
purchased
therefore,
with
it belongs to the city,
CDBG
period.
funds.
Yeah.
We transferred it to
They just
the
give us money to
EDA.
purchase stuff, it belongs to the city, period.
I mean, it's public
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
I get that piece, yeah, yeah,
So-
But I haven't
That's-
received any requests or calls
Yeah.
regarding
but
that.
we get it,
So
we,
you got something.
we get it, and I respect that.
Maybe
I respect how we get land and how land are being, purchased, but these are our citizens. This is our city.
Yeah.
And they're not, the people aren't necessarily trying to harass us. They're trying to find a solution to what they perceive as a problem for them.
So you saying send a letter to the president of the Civic League?
And to the city, so that it will be, we give it to the liaison to give to the city, so that we can get out of that.
This matter was, the city is aware.
Yeah,
This
we
matter was
already
already
know.
heard
Yeah,
in the
we
planning
already-
commission. So now it's going to
Right
the
to
city
the-
council.
I've
and,
heard,
and
wait a minute,
Right.
I've heard,
On our side.
being aware,
This board.
being made aware is all good and wonderful to me. However, I just think sometimes we can nip it in the bud
Yeah, take the bull by the horn.
and then we have a document. This is not the first person that has come out to us or said something to us. We have to document these things. Yeah, we're doing our due diligence. Are we that busy? Do we not care? Do we not want to help the people who are helping us to get solutions to
No
problems?
clarity.
Well, at least clarity. I ain't mad at nobody. I know y'all doing y'all job.
Right. Right. Y'all do y'all job. But Mr. Bland, would it inconvenience you too much just to respond with a letter to the president of Westbury Association or whatever?
One of them.
Well, let me,
You know.
I don't have, it's left up to the vote of the majority of the board members. What do the majority of the board members, they want a letter, want the housing authority to send a letter?
What? You don't.
Make
This
a
Let me
motion
just,
or
because
something.
I know Ms. Adams
on
was
the
at that
day-to-day
meeting.
operations.
It was a meeting.
You don't need a
Yeah.
vote.
I attended that meeting,
The
Tuesday
West,
night.
you talking about the Westbury
Yes, I
meeting?
attended the Westbury Civic League meeting
Okay.
because I am actually, the agency, the Community Health Center is a mandatory partner for Public Housing Authority.
Sure is.
And I attended the meeting because I'm on the board of the Community Health Center. And there is no confusion with the Civic League as to who owns the land. The presentation was done by the developer, Mr. Glenn, and they were well aware that economic, because he stated that. He stated that he has an agreement with Economic Development Authority for the purchase of the land. He's gonna be the builder. The Community Health Center is going to lease the building from him. There was about 12 residents at the meeting. Most of them live along King Street because that is the street that is. So I cannot say that Westbury community is up in arms. The residents that live along King Street are up in arms because, and I can understand that because they are it affects them directly. However, we don't know if there are residents that are definitely in favor of the community health center because they weren't there. The people that had more of an interest in what was going on were like I said, about 12 people, maybe a little less, that were there at the meeting Tuesday night. So, but as far as them thinking we own the land, that is not a point of contention. They are well aware that the city owns the land, that there's an agreement with EDA to have the purchaser, Mr. Glenn, purchase the land. Like I said, he mentioned it on a couple of occasions, and so they decided, those that were not in favor after the presentation, because it was a presentation done at the meeting on the project with renderings shown of the facility, and those that are not in favor, they said they would attend the city council meeting.
Right.
So that was not their issue.
Right. And they also attended the planning commission.
And they attended the planning
meeting
council.
before that.
They attended the planning council committee
Saw
meeting.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was my understanding that this comment that put us in the middle of it came from a person that doesn't live in Westbury.
Yes,
Wow.
because I happen to be sitting right next to her.
Happened to send a casual email
That's right.
to us saying that we own the property.
And it was,
Oh, yes, it did.
So,
she got,
we'd be responding to somebody who just sent an email to us thinking that we own the property. I mean,
and she was in the
At
same
what
meeting that I was
point-
in,
at what
and she
point-
heard.
I mean, I can see going to Westbury, but Westbury doesn't have the issue. It's this interested citizen that doesn't even live in the community.
Okay, so Ms. Donna.
All right.
Okay.
Who challenged that we own the property, and if they'd done had listened at the meeting, would know we don't own the property, so.
Okay.
I would let Mr. Bland do
Yeah,
whatever
if
he
you
needs
could
to
just
do to.
respond to
We don't need
the
to vote on
email
it,
and
yeah.
say.
Well, I'm not gonna
it's-
direct
Well, I
Mr.
would-
Bland
I
what
would
to do.
say,
Well,
according to
yeah.
Mr.
We are the ones
Bland.
who can direct Mr. Bland what to do.
But if it's gonna be on something on behalf of the board, then the board should take a vote on it. If you're asking him to do something on behalf of the board, this will be a
No,
consensus
just
of the
as executive
board.
director.
From a professional standpoint, I don't see any reason why the housing authority need to respond to this particular person when that particular person have already heard at that particular meeting that she was at, that who the land belonged to.
That's all I'm
Because
concerned.
once I do respond, then she gonna
Yeah, it's
respond
not-
back and forth.
Yeah.
No, we don't wanna
You
get
know
into
what,
that.
and I'm gonna weigh in on it, that's not necessarily always the case, but, I will say this. I've responded to her before on, different matters, as those sitting around the table have responded to her, because sometimes you have to let the person know that they may not have all their facts
Facts in order.
accurately. And it never harms anyone to add clarity as a response to an email. She's still a citizen,
Yeah, of
and
course.
she emailed. But you know what, Mr. Bland, if you don't want to respond, you don't have to respond. But if I were the executive director, I would just respond to her. It won't take long for you to say just what you said here, what we all now have clarity on. I already had clarity because I served on EDA. This is not our property, and just want to, make you aware that this is not this is not the PRHA's property. And sign an email and send it to her. It doesn't take long, because one thing citizens don't like, they don't like to be ignored, and no one wants to be not seen as being valuable. So.
And people get, sometimes difficult situations turn into your best allies. And if anything we're looking for is to make people partners with us. We're not trying to create any kind of division. And I want to thank Mrs. Adams for that clarification, because that's what I'm looking for, not just for the board members, but for all the citizens of Portsmouth. We have wonderful, wonderful people in Portsmouth. And we don't, I think it's our job to provide that clarification in situations wherever we can. That's what I have to say. I'm satisfied.
Well, I would be if Mr. Bland would just respond to her email and just say exactly, what it is. Because all of us get confused at times. All of us. It's not anyone around this table in this room that has not had to ask for clarity when it comes to matters pertaining to our city. We
do want this city to work.
Most definitely. We want to get rid of the rumors at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Good. All right. Mr. Bland?
We'll have a final report for you at the November meeting in reference to Swanson. I know it's been asked many times, reference to Swanson. We anticipate, and this is just a rough guess now, we anticipate roughly we're gonna be writing off about 1.5 million that we will not get back. Hotel costs, we had 35,000 hotel costs, which is we will not get back. We had moving expense roughly about 42,000, and environmental expenses was moving another 49,000, which is not reimbursable. So we had the final dollar amount for you that will be. We know our total expense roughly about a little more 3.5 million for the Swanson back in 2016. Yeah. But we'll have the final amount of the write-off for you at the November board meeting. Okay, thank you.
Does this have to do with Allstate and the claim, or is this something different?
Part of, Allstate was involved, insurance carrier and FEMA and stuff like that. But we'll have the final, if you wait until November, we have all the final costs for you.
Well, I do have a question. With Allstate's involvement, are you saying that under the policy that they did not pay at all?
No, I'm not saying they did not pay at all. They only paid, based on the policy where it was written, they had met their financial obligation.
They did. They were not in default of the policy with us?
No.
Okay. Okay, because my next recommendation was going to be you can always file an appeal to the state insurance commission. If you feel that we were wrong. Okay.
No.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Okay. Commissioners have any comments? Commissioner Morgan?
Just to kind of follow up on my comments from last month, and the tremendous presentation from Ms. Herrera at the planning retreat, I would strongly encourage us to schedule the part 2 of that, which was developing the strategic plan as soon as possible.
Okay. Commissioner Jacobs?
Yes. I have to also readdress about the check that was written on Town Bank that was missing a check number. And just so happened I came across the Housing Authority's cash disbursement check writing, general check preparation guidelines, and it says, number 5 says, checks are numbered by the authority's software system. No manual checks are permitted. So this is what I'm reading from, and it says checks are numbered by the authority's software system. So once again, I had asked that you all at this meeting, provide further information on how that happened, that check was printed on town, drawn against Town Bank without a check number, because it obviously directly circumvents your policy and procedures. And I guess the question is it to you, Shannon?
Probably,
Okay.
yeah. So the check did have numbers, it was all zeros. It was the first check number written on that account. I've called Emphasis, and there is a box where you can change the check number, but because it was the very first check generated, it put it all as all 0000. So they couldn't really explain to me what had happened, but I can manually go in and change what the check number should start with.
Well, it says
It'll be fixed from here on out. It was computer generated. It was, how many, like 5 or 6 zeros?
Yeah, no manual checks are permitted.
It's not a manual check, it was
No,
generated
not
through
that
the
check. You said you could go in and make a manual check.
I can go in and there's a box in the
Manually
setup
change the
area
number.
to say where I
But
want the
that
check
shouldn't
number to
even be
start.
allowed.
But that's what she would have had to do to give it a number.
Right.
Well, then
But
that's a
usually when you
glitch
set
in the
up-
software.
When you set up the software, because I haven't had to do, this is only like the second time I've ever had to set up a setup for it to print out, because like I said, this was the first time we ever cut a check out of that bank account. Usually when you go in, you just have to tell it, map it to what bank account you want it to do it, and then the computer usually assigns the checks automatically. And for some reason this time, it's put them all as all zeros, and now the next one will do 0001 and da-da-da. But if I don't like that numbering scheme, I do have the option myself, because I do have the passwords to get in there, or I can have our IT person get in and do it, but we can change it to say 001 000 and like manually change the check numbering.
The sequence.
The sequence of the numbering, right.
Okay, and let me say this. As part of our fiduciary responsibilities, we should not be paying fees to cash checks drawn on accounts that have our PRHA money in it. So, Town Bank, if I heard you correctly at the last meeting, was the only bank who would not charge a fee for a reimbursement check. The other banks are charging a fee. Let me finish. Because before that, with the initial check on SunTrust, they charge a fee. I'm saying, Mr. Bland, we should negotiate so that any time a check is drawn on accounts that have the PRJ's money in it, individuals should not be charged a fee.
Well, now, I'm under understanding that if a check is written to me, and if I take it to a bank where I don't have an account, if I try to cash it, they're gonna charge me for it.
Let me again say this, you can negotiate because the PRJ's money is in that bank. You can have a discussion that says anytime a check drawn on this bank that has our funds in that bank, we're asking as a courtesy that the fee be waived. And that is within our fiduciary responsibility, because I won't put you on the spot to say how much money we have in these various banks. But I think we have enough, so we have a little bit of leverage so that we should not have to pay a fee, individuals, because the actual account that has the money is with that bank, and a person, a commissioner, goes to that bank directly to cash the check. That can be negotiated, and I hope it will. But for those banks where they don't charge that fee,
Town Bank's the only one.
and they don't charge the fee because we have money at that bank. And the other banks that have our money there should also not be charging us fees. They should not be charging us fees, particularly that type of fee, where we're going directly to the bank that the check is drawn on. And just for clarity, and it didn't come through to me, but yes, I have checking accounts. But as I said, when I tried to negotiate the check through my own personal bank account, the town bank check, it would not accept it because of the glitch with the check numbers. Now, if I'm hearing you correctly, because it started off with 000, that's going to need to be fixed so that if there be any subsequent checks coming through town bank for reimbursement, it needs to be on par going forward so that no other check is printed without a check number. And I can't overemphasize how important this breach was. For my reimbursement check, small money, small dollars, but it can't happen. It can't happen on a proper internal controls procedure. It cannot happen according to your own cash disbursement, check writing, general check preparation guidelines. It cannot happen either.
But I'm trying to understand, I'm not hearing that there was an error. The check number was 0000. That was the check number.
That's an error.
Well, that's your opinion. It's not my opinion.
No, that's not my opinion.
Because the computer is the one that generated the number. It wasn't a human being that touched that check. There was no human being intervention to put the check number on that check. The software did what we paid for that software to do. So I'm very satisfied, Shannon, that the software is doing what we exactly asked it to do, which is to put a check number on it. And it did. It may not be a check number that you like, but it's a check number.
That's
Secondarily, I want to be sure what we're asking town. Are we asking town to waive the fee of anybody that brings in a check issued by PRHA to be cashed? Is it for employees? Is it for vendors? Is it for commissioners? What are we asking town bank to waive if someone comes in with a PRHA check? Because that's
Well,
Town
town does waive. It was the other banks that didn't.
Okay, just want to make sure what we're going to ask here, because there's going to be people, you know, that we're going to give tenants PRHA checks drawn, and they're not going to have an account at various places. I just want to make sure what we're asking Mr. Bland to do.
And let me respond. This was an error because no check prints out 000. So the error is in the computer software, which we need to fix. Because no check should print out check number 000. That was not on me.
Okay.
That was on the software, and that caused town bank to have to take an additional look at the check because at first the teller wasn't able to cash it because it didn't have a check number. And that's all I can tell you.
Right.
But that becomes a glitch in the software system, which we want to fix so it doesn't happen again.
And you fixed it, Shannon.
I have fixed it, and yes, I should have, it was a mistake on my behalf, I missed it, as I was trying to go out the door to go see my mom, who's fighting for cancer, so I apologize deeply, and it will not happen again.
Well, it's, you know, I'm sure it wasn't intentional, but if it's something in the system, if it can happen to a check printed for me, it can happen to a check printed for anybody, including the vendor. We just don't want that to happen. So I'm glad I was the victim, and so therefore the software glitch will be fixed.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
thank you for the catch, Ms. Jiggets, and
Yes.
thank you, Shannon, for correcting the problem. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Any other commissioner got a comment? Commissioner Washington?
Yeah, I just have a question in regards to this. So if we get a check from here, it's gonna be from town bank. Is that correct?
No.
No.
Can I answer the question?
What are most checks you do for reimbursement when you cut out checks for the stuff?
Oh, that's due through finance.
What are
I
most checks
usually
you
cut
cut
them
through?
out of SunTrust, because it's the management account.
Okay,
But they
And
charge
most
the
of the
fee.
times, the commissioners just or put them directly into their bank accounts.
that's what I just deposit, yeah, got it, okay.
And see, I do it different. I take it directly to the bank that the check is drawn on. And
You just answered your own question, Ms. Jacobs.
Well, no, I'm telling you, yeah, I'm giving disclosure, but because
You don't mind
SunTrust
me
is
asking who you
calling,
bank with?
I have 2 bank accounts.
Got you.
Ooh.
Neither with SunTrust, not with
Okay,
SunTrust and not
okay.
with Town Bank.
So you could have deposited that check?
No,
No, I couldn't.
Because the number, got it. Okay.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
no,
I
no,
tried
Okay,
that,
got it,
you
okay.
missed that part.
Cool.
I tried through my
Alright.
ATM,
Okay.
a couple, I had to drive 2
won't even-
cities
They won't
over.
touch
So,
it.
so
You heard
basically,
me when I
so
said
basically,
that.
so
Yeah.
basically, so basically, now that we got that problem fixed, you caught it. Glad you
You
caught
caught
it.
Yeah, but yeah, I did, no, I tried to
Yeah.
take it to my bank, I
Okay.
tried to take it to
Good.
my
Okay.
bank,
Yes.
and it
Alright.
didn't work out.
Got
But
you.
it will next time.
All right.
Okay, so, there, future rep, it won't normally be Town Bank, it will be some other, okay. And the second part of it is, just take it, I would just take it to who I deal with and go from there. Okay. Yeah, I think this would probably be the appropriate point for make corrections. Is this under my comments, so I can just put them under my,
Well, you talking about the corrections you caught, y'all both talked about earlier?
yeah.
About the 4-year thing?
No, this is a little bit different. Mine's is different. She taught for you, I'm gonna talk Virginia Code. Okay? Okay, so let me begin by saying I'm recommending the following actions. And, according to the Virginia Code, paragraph G states that support and permit said party, Vice Chair Lisa Lucasberg, presence in open and closed meetings with the stipulation of listing the name of her presence in the minutes. And I'll read, do I need to read this again, or, okay, I'll read this again. The Virginia Code states, a member of the public body shall be permitted to attend a closed meeting held by any committee or subcommittee of that public body or closed meeting or of any entity, however designated, created to perform the delegated function of or to advise that public body. Such members shall in all cases be permitted to observe the closed meeting of the committee, subcommittee, or entity. In addition to the requirement of the Virginia Code 2.2-3707, the minutes of the committee or other entity shall include the identity of the committee member of the present public body, Vice Mayor Lisa Lucasberg, who attended the closed meeting. And so the only stipulation is listing the person's name in the minutes as present, just like we list her name in the open meeting, we list her name in a closed meeting. That's number one. Secondly, votes against said persons must be corrected and we added in the future to reflect the change. Therefore, any commission that voted against her presence is in violation of the Virginia Code. If they maintain the vote of no, I'm not sure about the person who abstained, how we handle that. Third, there is no case-by-case issue according to the Virginia Code, and we don't need to deem it necessary because the Virginia Code says that the person can be present in all of the meetings.
That's section G.
That's section paragraph G, as stated. The chair opened, and that's my comments for that part. The other point, the chair opened the closed meeting at our last meeting, but at some point exited the closed meeting without acknowledging his exit. Next point. Let the minutes reflect that the vice chair did take charge without acknowledging his exit from our closed meeting, nor give us reason for his exit of our closed meeting, the chair. Let the minutes reflect that the vice chair read the resolution to return to open meeting. And also the vice chair did return to open meeting, and the vice chair closed the open meeting because the chair was not present during the meeting. Lastly, well, not lastly, still a couple of more things to go. Commissioner Roberts stated as a point of fact that the leak adversely affect the bargaining point and ultimately cost the PRHA money when we were talking about this issue. I don't remember, I like to, point of fact, I like to know how much it cost us and when did it adversely affect our bargaining point. Because I don't remember us ever discussing any cost. We talked about possibilities of cost, but it never cost us, to my recollection, any dollars or cents. And I can't remember it adversely affecting anybody. Also, I've asked, and I think Bruce suggested it early on. I sent a letter about the what-if scenarios for Dale and Swanson Homes. We're right in the hurricane season again, and we need to, I just feel we should have more discussion regarding that. I think you alluded to some of that today, did you, Mr.? Okay, so, and I asked a question in my letter, and I'd like some answers. And lastly, I'd just like to close saying to the Vice Mayor and our representative that and you've received my letter, but I believe you've served us in a most excellent way. And I'm just extremely proud to be on the board with you. And I will be following up with other letters to you.
Attorney James, do you want to respond about Section G, that should have been the part that should have been actually referenced?
I would like to review the documents.
I thought you
and,
had that.
No, I don't have that. And the code sections, but from what I heard, the Virginia Code Freedom of Information Act and the closed meeting sessions is based on whether a person is deemed necessary or if they're going to add something to the discussion. That's the basis for the closed meeting session.
Okay, so you'll revisit Section G? Yeah.
If he can provide me with that,
Yeah.
I'll be happy to.
Yeah, I'll make sure we have this.
You got it from her, didn't you?
Let me see. Yeah, you did.
You provided that.
Yeah, you provided this, Mr. James.
Can I see it?
I got so many other notes on it. I'll just tell you my
But
other stuff.
What date did she send it? Then she can pull it.
Wait a minute. Let me see. I don't know. August 22nd? No, she didn't provide it.
Oh, she did?
No, I don't know how to read this. I will provide the code and then I'll get back with you.
Okay, so who provided it if I didn't provide it?
I'd rather not say, but
Okay, well then I don't know how can I respond to something I didn't provide.
You will know, you will know, you will know.
Just send her
But
email
the code is the Virginia Code. Yeah, the Virginia, here it is, the Virginia, the Code of Virginia, Administration of Government, Chapter 27, Virginia Freedom of Information, 2-2-3712, closed meeting procedures, certification proceedings.
So you'll send.
I can make her a
Make a
copy.
copy of it.
Yeah,
We
so
can
that you
make
can
a
have
copy
it and
of it.
respond it on next.
And closed meeting procedures and the closed meeting are two separate code sections. They're not the same. They're not the same. The closed meeting procedures just
I've got my
verify.
opinion and a read on this, and I'm
Okay.
standing by what I say.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Commissioner Londa?
Yeah, I have 18 things here I want to go over. But first of all, I just want to encourage, and I hope everybody has before they came to the meeting, look at the website. It is an excellent, excellent dynamic tool that the staff put together, so thank you very much. I was very impressed with the resident section on the events that are going on, and I know in the significant events report, activities report, it shows a lot of the healthcare things that we're doing with the residents, the ice cream functions you're doing with the residents, and it's nice to finally, we're starting to get that stuff out there about what what PRHA is doing. And again, it's just an excellent, it presents itself well, the tabs are easy to get to. I'm sure there's some happy to glad stuff that can work, but just having the events there and knowing you've got something coming up in a month or two, and if I got time, I'd love to come by and and pat y'all on the back for what y'all are doing. Just want to
You're doing it now.
say thanks to say thanks to Carol and what her team is doing on trying to get that wait list cleaned up. I really appreciate that. I want to make sure that we as commissioners, we really need to stay on top of that. Mr. Blaine, I appreciate all the effort that you can get to her to help her get that cleaned up, because the quicker we get that wait list cleaned up, the quicker we get the wait list opened back up. And that's what we need to be doing. There's a lot of people that are in need of housing in this town. It's one of the responsibilities we have. It's why we are a housing authority, is to be able to have that. So it'd be nice to be able to advertise we're opening the wait list up. I think that kind of information is needed to give to the vice mayor, to let her know, hey, where can she go with the citizens? Where can we get that help and collaboration with? So as we have that joint meeting, that's probably the challenge we need to tell council. We're going to really give you a metric of how many people are really in need of low-income housing here in the city. And the last one, if you all remember, 2 years ago, we had a big push to list all the properties that we had at PRHA. That's how we developed what we were going to give to EDA. I would encourage y'all to revisit that list, give us an updated list, so we can, if we possibly can, take it to that joint council meeting and say, okay, again, here's another group of properties that we'd like y'all to look at. This one, there's a few of them. The one on Tally, I went out there, I don't understand why we own that, but I'll always question y'all on certain properties. Why aren't we just giving it away and moving it on so the city can get it back on the tax rolls, rather than us just holding on to it, hoping that there's going to be a buyer in 25 years, all right? So I would just ask that we look. I know the property list was pretty extensive before. I know we've gotten rid of a lot of property, sold some property, but I think that's one of the things we need to look at is what's there now that we can get, especially as we talked about with COC money being tight. Like to get those proceeds working for us so we can put it back to the best interest of the citizens here in Portland. So thanks, that's all I have.
Commissioner Chairman Smith, I did have one other thing. And that is because Mr. Bland, I sent you an email because I had noticed that Mr. Michael Pack had not been attending our meetings. And it was not until I went on the website and saw that his position was being advertised since July. I think the board should have been made aware, because that's a critical position, Director of Development and Capital Funds Programs. And the board should have been made aware that this position was vacant. Mr. Pack was no longer here with the authority. And let me just say that personally, for the short period of time I was here and requesting information from you that you would channel to Mr. Pack, Mr. Pack was very responsible and he responded quickly. So certain positions the board should be made aware of when there is a vacancy there, just for information purposes, because he was the Director of Development and Capital Funds Manager. So that is my final comment.
Okay. I don't have any comments at all. Just to say congratulations again, Vice Chair Lalonde. And let's go and grow. Public speakers, PRHA allows 5-minute speakers. Do we have any speakers? There being none. Okay, moving on. Correspondence, Mr. Glenn, anything?
Oh, yes, one correspondence. I want to give you a handout. These are some things, how to be, for the residents, went out in reference to how to report crime, incidents they may see in their community. Let me see.
The tacky finger, Mr. Bland.
And, okay. And then if you take down the pass down.
Let's pass it down, Mr. Pass it down.
And while he's doing that, let me just say, the other email that I sent to Mr. Bland has to do with the tacky finger. That is very important because germs are passed when people lick their fingers with their saliva, and then they, and I understand why it's done, because you're trying to separate the documents, but thankfully, there are products out there, including tacky finger, that will prevent all of us from having to do that.
Yeah.
You know, because once it becomes a habit, it's very hard to break.
That just for your information, that went out to all the residents. And also, when you read through it, information's on our website, as Bruce just mentioned. So, that's an avenue how they can report, what's going on in their community. That's all I have.
Gotcha. Upcoming events, October 2019, we got a regular scheduled board meeting, commissioners meeting, October 21st, public work session, joint meeting with city council. Chairs moved to adjourn.
And I'm sorry, one other thing. If you have, I know I have received some comments from some commissioners on what they want on the agenda when we meet with city council. I would say to you, if you can get me your additional suggestions for the agenda, so I can put that together for the work session with the council, I really appreciate it. And I would then send you a copy of that agenda. And what we do, we normally put that agenda together and then we give it to the city manager. But always keep in mind, if something is left off the agenda, you do have a comment period where you can also bring up items that may not be on the agenda at that work session.
Great.
Okay?
Did you ask for a
I
motion?
did. I let him finish what he needed to say.
No, but before you, because, Mr. Bland, I have to say, I'm very serious about the proper way, you know, and the tacky finger. I was hoping you were gonna have it here today, and also for your staff. So will we be able to rely on you that you will be having that, so that that won't be an issue?
Germaphobe.
It's not germaphobe. Do
Well-
you recall reading the email?
Yeah.
Okay, so will you be able to supply that at the board meeting so that it will help prevent you from doing putting the finger in the mouth and putting it on the document and then passing around? I just need to get your acknowledgement that you understand the concern and seriousness of it.
We will have proper tool for the next board meeting.
Okay, and you laugh at it, but it's not funny. It's not funny. It's not funny, because when you watch somebody put the finger in their mouth on the tongue and spit and then separate documents, that's not cool. It's not healthy either.
Yeah. I understand that.
Okay? Don't come in here sniffling and stuff. I don't want to hear it.
I don't want
Chair
to
needs a
see
motion to adjourn. So moved.
Second.
Please adjourn.
Second.